And now we're on to the first main card fight of the night, a very, very good bantamweight matchup. Uh, you hear people say the bantamweight division in the UFC is among the most stacked that they have. Completely agree. Both of these men, with their skill set, pound for pound, could probably be ranked in any one of the other divisions, but they're in the bantamweight division, so right now they're sitting hovering around 15. If you look at the tail of the tape, you can see Umar Nurmagomedov in the Cage Calculus bantamweight rankings is ranked 16th out of 73. Raoni Barcelos just an ounce above at 15 out of 73. Obviously, this does not correspond to the UFC's official rankings, where I believe Umar Nurmagomedov is ranked 15th and Barcelos is not ranked. But nevertheless, a close matchup according to the algorithm. You see Umar Nurmagomedov 17.8, Raoni Barcelos an even 17.25 in terms of their CC rating, which translates, according to the algorithm, to a 51% win percentage or win probability for Barcelos. But then you look all the way down and you'll see Umar Nurmagomedov is the biggest favorite on the card. Minus 950. That means if you want to win $100 placing a bet on Umar Nurmagomedov, you have to risk $950. And if you look at the numbers, it doesn't look like that warrants that. It doesn't look like Umar Nurmagomedov should be a nearly 10-1 favorite over Barcelos. Because if you look, yes, Umar Nurmagomedov undefeated at 15-0. Raoni Barcelos 17-3, 85% win percentage. That's not bad, especially considering he's been around a little bit longer and has been fighting in the UFC a little longer. 8 UFC fights for Barcelos, only 3 for Nurmagomedov. Like we said, in terms of where the algorithm thinks they fit into this bantamweight division, they're about at the low end of the rankings, low end of the top 15, but both right about in that same spot. Average opponent rating. Nurmagomedov has fought a tougher schedule. He came in, he submitted Sergey Morozov in his UFC debut, took a little bit of a time off because of a knee injury, but then came back and at featherweight submits Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher, not exactly a scrub of the featherweight division. Umar Nurmagomedov comes up a weight class, up 10 pounds, submits Kelleher rather easily, might I add. Which might make some people think, well, if Umar Nurmagomedov ever gets a shot at bantamweight gold, maybe he becomes a double champ and tries something at featherweight. Something to think about. But Raoni Barcelos' average opponent rating, 1611.2, probably around the average for a bantamweight in that area, mean, median. That's probably your average bantamweight. Umar Nurmagomedov is fighting a little bit of a class above, and right now, he's not showing any deficiencies. In his last bout, he didn't get a submission. It was his first decision win in the UFC, but he ragdolled Nate Maness, who a lot of people thought might be making his way up into the rankings. Just ragdolled him for 3 rounds. Not competitive. Raoni Barcelos has a slight advantage in finishing rate. They're both in the mid-50s or so. 53.3% for Nurmagomedov, 58.8% for Barcelos. Barcelos has a little bit of an advantage, but they're both in that mid-50s range. Not going to make too much of a difference. They're both coming off of decision victories. Barcelos against Trevin Jones and Nurmagomedov, like we just said, against Nate Maness. Now here's where we start to see a little bit of a difference. Barcelos, when he gets finishes, it's usually by knockout. When Nurmagomedov does it, as you can imagine, a Dagestani, he's going to get the submission. And then, again, back down to those odds, Nurmagomedov coming in at a minus 950 favorite. So, we've run through the numbers. We've told you what the algorithm thinks. The algorithm thinks 51% for Barcelos, who's nearly a 7-1 underdog. What are we to make of this? Who's right? Who's wrong? Well, first of all, I think Nurmagomedov is the better, more talented fighter for sure. You're going to get no arguments from me. I think Barcelos is a little underrated. He had a tough stretch brutal upset loss to newcomer Victor Henry his last time out. He was a nearly 5-1 favorite, and he blew it to the newcomer who's coming in on relatively short notice. Victor Henry was not a scrub himself. He had a long, illustrious career before the UFC. He was a newcomer, but not to MMA. That's for sure. Nurmagomedov, on the other hand, has just been a tour de force. Nobody has shown him anything. He's never been in any sort of trouble. So if Barcelos can get him in some sort of trouble, that might be something he's not accustomed to. All that being said, though, Nurmagomedov is going to get the takedown, and can Barcelos manage that with his grappling skills? Again, Nurmagomedov has shown that nobody right now is a comparable grappler to him in the bantamweight division. He hasn't faced anybody close. I don't think Barcelos is going to be able to weather that. I do think Barcelos does have a little bit of experience against Dagestani fighters. Obviously, none of them quite cut from the same cloth as Umar Nurmagomedov, who is related to the famed Khabib Nurmagomedov, the GOAT of the lightweight division and quite possibly the GOAT of the UFC forever. But Barcelos has fought Said Nurmagomedov, no relation, and he came out victorious there. And then a couple fights ago, Barcelos faced Timur Valiev, Dagestani fighter. It was a majority decision, so he came close in that one. So Barcelos is not exactly going to be out of his depth, but also a little bit he is. So if you look at how this one's going to play out, I think Nurmagomedov gets takedowns, establishes the takedowns, and then maybe in round 2 or 3, Barcelos has to sell out for a knockout if he wants to win, and he'll probably succumb to a rear naked choke. Fun fact, Barcelos' first pro MMA loss was by rear naked choke. So I think that's how this goes. Umar Nurmagomedov by rear naked choke in the 2nd or 3rd round. It's going to be a good fight. I've hyped up Nurmagomedov's dominance because I think it's hard not to respect what that gym, Khabib's team, has done in the UFC. You just see it with Islam Makhachev. I think you'll see Nurmagomedov approach the upper echelons of this bantamweight division soon, despite how stacked it is. I think he's that good. I think he's going to make a run at the top 5 in the very near future. So that's all for this one. Stay tuned. The next one coming your way, Raquel Pennington versus Ketlin Vieira in the women's bantamweight division. Don't miss it. If you want to check out all of our previews, all of our recaps, our rankings, our matchmaking projections, and all the other analysis that Cage Calculus offers, you can do it at the website, cagecalculus.com. You can check out the little graphic that we had in the corner there. You can see all of that at the website, cagecalculus.com. Check it out. And if you like these video contents and you want more than just the articles on cagecalculus.com, please like and subscribe to let me know we're doing a good job.